Let me tell you, if someone, your friend, she has a birthday party, it starts late. Bridal shower, it starts late. Wedding, it starts late. When it comes time for the baby shower, what time do you think it's going to start?
Early,
Hello?
like right on time. She may have changed because there's a
The Holy
baby
Spirit
there.
came upon her. No, it's going to start late. So don't even try to act like you didn't know. Hey people, it's Abisola,
What's going on, people? Seyi here, Oko Abisola.
aka that just means Seyi is my husband.
Yep, and we're your co-hosts on Life Some Jara.
But before you think this is another relationship podcast, we've got so much more in store for you on money, side gigs, and living your best life. You shall get the gist.
Exactly, and all this content comes from you, our listeners, through surveys that you complete.
And trust us to add our own Jara,
Yep.
a little extra here and there.
Of course, so stay tuned.
What's up, people? Welcome back to episode 3 of Life and Some Jara.
What?
Hey.
Yeah, so for this episode, we're talking about the topic that is very near and dear to our hearts. It is African time.
Guys, we've been burned. So burned. Like when we think we've nailed this whole African time thing down, we show up for an event and we're still burned again.
Yeah, not just us. A lot of people apparently have been burned because they come to events and they end up waiting and waiting and waiting.
Hours and hours just waiting. So yeah, it's not just us. It's like a lot of the responses that we got from the survey we put out. The responses are just like, guys, come on. African time is killing us. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Correct. And the other reason why we decided to talk about this is because African time is actually very expensive.
Yeah.
Like, as the title says, how African time cost us $1 million, right? Okay, well, it didn't really cost Bisola and I $1 million. If I have $1 million, I'll be like,
our
totally...
community tons and tons of dollars.
Yeah, tons of lost productivity, tons of lost money.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an epidemic.
Yeah, I agree. It's an epidemic. When you really put it in perspective and you think about the amount of time people just spend sitting and waiting, scrolling through their phones because they have nothing else to do. It translates into, lost productivity, lost money. But yeah, we're going to talk more about that.
Okay, but when you say lost money, let's even quantify what this means, right? Assuming there's an event of 50 people and each person is roughly $100, every hour of their life is worth $100, right? That's like what?
Yo, your people are rich though. Who do you know?
Hey, it's just to make the math work, okay? It's just to make the math work. But anyways, for every hour wasted, that's like $5,000 down the drain, right? And then if you have somebody like my uncle Dangote, like if just that 1 hour, that's $500,000 wasted, right?
Yeah.
Or let's say it's my cousin Mark Zuckerberg. Now that
Your
1 hour is like
though.
what?
Zuckerberg sounds like an African name.
Yeah, Uncle Abi Zuka. Anyways, whatever. That 1 hour is worth $2 million for him, right?
Wow.
So it just kind of goes to show you, right? There's a monetary impact to African time.
It's crazy. Yeah. So one story that came from one of our listeners. So she talks about how her and her husband went to an event last, sometime in summer. They went to a wedding actually. And before the wedding started, she said they waited and waited and waited. And then they finally decided, you know what, let's go grab fast food for lunch. So after the ceremony, they waited again and they waited and waited and waited. And finally the reception started. Okay, fine. It started.
Let me just understand. They were at a wedding and then they went out to get fast food because the wedding hadn't started.
Didn't start. Yeah.
Wow.
So they went to Chick-fil-A. Thank God for Chick-fil-A, saving lives since 1912 or something.
Well.
So they went, got some Chick-fil-A, came for the wedding. They finally started. And then, okay, wedding is over and time for the reception. And they're waiting and waiting and waiting for the reception to start. And then finally, the reception started. And they're like, okay, cool. We're going to get to eat soon. But no, they waited. They waited and waited.
Okay,
and then she said it was finally time
honestly.
for them to eat. And they were calling table names. And then it was like 9 or 10 p.m. and they still hadn't called their table. She said there was a long line for their table. And she was like, you know what? It's time to go home. Let's just go. So they ended up not eating. And, at
So
the end of the
wait,
day,
they
the
missed out of
Chick-fil-A
the
was
jollof rice.
exactly party
Oh,
jollof
that's no,
wasted.
no, no,
Yeah.
no,
So
no.
that Chick-fil-A was a lifesaver right there. So yeah.
Wait, so what? Assuming they took a full day off for work for just that wedding, that's very easily $1,000 lost right
Yeah,
there.
that sounds like a full day experience for that wedding. And pretty much it just sounded like most of the time was spent waiting. And if they were like a nurse or something that works on weekends,
Oh, now let's make that
that's some
$2,000
good
or something.
dollars
God
right
knows
there.
what I can do with that
That's some
money.
good dollars right there for passing up on that shift. Yeah.
All right, so in that case, let's just share with people like what our survey approach was just to get all this feedback, right?
Sure. So the questions we asked were, how do you feel, when an event is late? How does that make you feel? We also asked, like, how often do you arrive on time? We asked, how,
When you yourself host events, do you start on time or not?
yeah. And then we just asked people, hey, just share stories that you experience about African time. Like, really wanted to get a sense of how bad really is this thing? Is this thing called African time?
Yeah. So going into the first one, right? We asked, do you really find African time annoying, or is it just something you can live with, right? And really, from the surveys we conducted, 90% of the people said it's extremely frustrating. Like, it's so annoying.
Yeah, they said it's upsetting and annoying. I'll tell you a story from this lady who submitted a survey. She said, this babe man, she really annoyed me. So she went for her baby shower and she woke up early to cook some food for the baby shower. She also went to pick up gifts and yada, yada, yada. So pretty much she had an early start to her day, all for this shower. Got there right on time and she was the first person to arrive. Like, it was not even happening.
She got there on time, like when they told all the vendors to come, or when they told...
I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah,
the
it was-
information she said she just got for the shower and like there was nobody there.
Wow.
So anyway, she was like, okay, cool. I mean, it probably will start sometime soon, but everything was all set up. Like, the vendors were there, everything is there. She's just like, why am I waiting? Turns out the mother-to-be was just upstairs. It was in her house. So she was just upstairs chilling, getting ready for this baby shower. And she's like, okay, you'll be done soon.
That's messed up.
Yeah. And it takes her hours to finally come down. By then, other guests start to arrive, gradually. And so she finally is done with her makeup and comes downstairs. And she's like, you would think that she would try to hurry things up and start. But she was like, no, her and her like close friends were like taking pictures and selfies.
That means she wasn't even apologetic. She didn't even think she had done something wrong.
It was normal. That's what's upsetting
that's so
about
messed
it.
up.
Yeah, that's what is upsetting. I think some people are like genuinely late and like they're sorry. But some other people just feel like, they own your time and they own rights and copyrights and everything to your time.
Yeah, I mean...
So yeah, you would think that was the word. That was the end of it.
Oh, that wasn't...
No, she had a baby and then it came time for the naming ceremony.
Oh, hope this lady came late.
Well, this time around, she thought it would be different because it was in an Oyinbo church, which means a white church. And it was an Oyinbo pastor. And she's like, yeah, like Americans don't do, Oyinbo people don't really do, African time. So she was so wrong. She got there. She got there only to help them set up for the naming ceremony. And
Well,
she's
at least
like,
in this situation,
done.
she was doing something right. The first one, she was just sitting down. This one, she was setting up, right?
But yeah, at the end of the day, she wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you and I have been burnt like that so many times where we're just sitting or we're just helping set up. Like, it's really annoying. And many times we've just walked out of those events. Well, we've lost out on a lot of good party jollof.
We
but
have.
yeah, and you know how party jollof is like so good, right?
So good. That smoky flavor coming out of the jollof. That's my favorite.
Clearly, jollof. Any jollof is your favorite, but
Well, that's
party
my
jollof
weakness.
itself.
That's my weakness, even more than meat pie. If you know us from my blog posts, party jollof wins. It wins the trophy even before meat pie.
Well, yeah, we've had the experiences with meat pie, but that's for another dish. But anyways, for those of you that find African time annoying, FYI, we are planning a launch party very soon for the podcast, and we promise you
you have
African
to wait. You have to announce it very well because
sorry,
I'm
madam,
so excited.
please
I'm
go,
so pumped.
go ahead.
No, I'm so pumped that we're having a launch event / party / whatever you want to call it for our podcast. So more to come soon, but it's going to be in the Silver Spring area
In October.
And we promise you, most importantly, no African time.
I thought you were going to say there'll be party jollof, but okay. No
I can't promise
African
you that
time.
one. There'll be good food though. There'll be good food, but I can't promise you what the menu is right now.
All right. So let's get back to this topic of African time, right? So if so many people find it annoying, why do people still start their events late?
Very good question.
So the first thing we got, just based on answers from the survey, and this is our own interpretation, right, was we think people think it's part of our culture, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I got a comment from one guy who was, we were just talking in passing and he said something like, I mean, it's African time now. Like it's just who we are. Like he's like, I mean, do you really expect the event to start on time? Like just those kind of like passive comments. I think people just think it has to be that way.
Let me guess, if he's going for an interview, will he do African time for an interview?
Well, hey, go ask him that question.
Like, if he did that, I'm sure he wouldn't have a job, right?
Go ask him that question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, particularly in the United States, it's so much
We
worse.
take African time to a whole nother level. This is like,
Yeah, because apparently,
Yeah.
from what I've heard, African time in Nigeria is
it's not that bad.
is worst case scenario 1 hour, but
Yeah.
typically what 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But here, African time
Yeah.
can be like 2 hours,
Yeah,
3
legit,
hours,
if
and
it was 30
that's
minutes
messed
to
up.
an hour, I don't think we will be recording a podcast on it, to be honest with you. It's so bad. I mean, I've had to wait 4 or 5 hours for an event to start.
You did.
I'm
Oh, I would have
not
totally
kidding.
left long
I
ago.
left. And I remember one that I left just feeling so empty. Like, how did I sit here for so long? I sat on a table. I didn't know anyone, just leaving.
Oh, you
No
know if-
food, nothing. Like, there was not even puff puff, nothing.
Wow.
There was nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was
okay.
just water and lemon. And I drank the water and I left.
I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, okay, so what's another reason why we think people start late?
I think, to be honest with you, people don't value other people's time. They don't value time, and I'm convinced that they don't really understand the concept of time and how limited it is and how important it is. Some people just kind of like live life in a flowy way.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with going with the flow sometimes, right? But not when you're planning an event, right?
So you know what I call those people? I call them the professional African timers. They're the ones where event is all set up. All the vendors are there, drinks are there, food is there, decorations are all set, ready to go. But guess what? They have no intentions. They are not even. It's not even crossing their mind that perhaps we're gonna start at 5. Like, no, it's starting at 7:30. Like, did you not know it's starting at 7:30? Wait, what? Did you see 5 on the invitation? Really?
I think a lot of those people, for them, as you said, they just feel like it's not that serious. I mean, it's my
Yeah.
day, it's my event. You
Yeah.
guys should
And it's-
abide by whatever I want, right? And in my opinion, I feel like that's selfish.
It
right?
is selfish. It's all about me mentality and I matter, and it doesn't
Your time
matter
doesn't
how it
matter,
affects your
it doesn't-
time. It doesn't matter whether or not you have to get back to work. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what else you have planned. It's all about me, and me.
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's
there was
kinda
a story
selfish.
from one of our respondents, right, that mentioned he had to take off work for a wedding recital. So he took off work, quickly went to his house, picked up his kids, dropped them off at home, did all what he needed to do for the house. Apparently, he hadn't even gotten the wedding outfit ready, so he had to go to the tailor. He had to squeeze a lot of things into that short time just to make the wedding recital at 5 p.m. Upon getting to the wedding recital, the groom-to-be was in there. The wife-to-be was in there. He waited, he called, he kept texting. They eventually arrived at 5:45. Even still, I guess it turned out the pastor wasn't there because they had told the pastor
my.
6:30.
Oh my.
So, first of all, he told all his friends 5 o'clock. A lot of people were there. This guy had to take off work.
It's
Just giving
inconsiderate.
wrong time and then not arriving or not letting people know. That's it's
inconsiderate, yeah.
inconsiderate. It's selfish.
Yeah. I honestly think that African time has become a never ending cycle, right? So everyone is trying to figure out, okay, how late should I be? So it starts at 2, then I'll just get there at 3, but then I'll get there at 3, so I'm not the first person to get there. But then the other person is thinking, well, I'll get there at 4, so I'm not the first person to get there. And
But then-
this cycle just, and then the host knows.
Everybody
The
will be
host is-
late,
yeah,
so
the
I'm going to
host-
tell them
so
to
I'm
come
just
early.
yeah, so it just gets very messy, and the cycle just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
But
So
even worse, people know that the host knows that they will be late, so
I know,
they then
I
choose
know,
to come
I
even
know,
later.
I know. This thing is
Yeah.
a mental game. It's draining thinking about trying to do the calculation of when
my, oh
exactly
my,
to
oh my.
arrive. Yeah, so it's messy.
I mean, I think there are also those that, in their heart of hearts, they want to do the right thing. they're just a little bit bad at planning events, right?
Oh,
Like
damn,
they're like,
Shay, you are not
okay, wait,
nice.
hold up. First of all, I fall into this category, so just disclaimer. But and that's why I can really understand their challenge because they want to plan everything, but then they put like everything is so close. So, for example, when I'm trying to plan an event, I will plan. Oh, I'll go pick up food at this time. 10 minutes later, I'll be back at home decorating the house or
Yeah,
the
he doesn't give
venue. After
enough
that, I'm going to
buffer.
do this and that, and I mean, of course, Bisola is always telling me like, "Shay, come on, you're not Superman. You
No,
can't do
yo, a
everything, right?"
classic example is like this morning. So today is a Saturday. We're recording on a Saturday, and we had a full day of activities, right? So our son had swimming lessons this morning, and then we had a 2 p.m. appointment, and then our son also had a workshop after swimming. But guess what? She had other ideas. He's like, first,
Oh,
let's
and we
work
worked
out.
out.
Yeah, he said, let's work out before the swimming lessons. And then he wanted to slide in. Oh, he said we should record. He said we should record this
Okay,
episode.
okay, really, don't tell
No,
everybody.
he literally thought we could do all of these things. He's like, yeah, no. So swimming is at 9:45, and then we can just come home and we can record, and then I'll go to Home Depot, and then after that we'll go to our 2 p.m. appointment, which was like
Okay, I think
45
you're
minutes
making
away
the
from
point
home.
that
By the
bad
way,
event planning. Okay,
so it's like he really in his head he thinks all these things can happen. By the way, it is what
it's fine.
10:30
Okay, let's
p.m.
move on. Let's
when
move
now
on.
we're just recording.
Okay, I think they get the idea.
Yeah, so back to the point is like for event planning, people legit think they can do all these things at the same time. So it's like, oh yeah, maybe it's just to blow the balloons. Like that's just gonna take like 2 minutes, and the same person who's gonna do that is also the same person who is going to maybe pick up the food. And oh yeah, it's just down the road, except you're not taking into account how much time it takes to load up the car. So like, just give yourself time and
Yeah,
buffer, in case things go wrong or there's
guys,
traffic.
I guess she's giving you a preview of the planning document that she has for this event coming that we're planning, right?
Shay, you don't have
She
to
has
embarrass
like
me in public.
she has like it's a very long spreadsheet with all these different things.
It's not
The
even
vendor
that
comes at this
serious.
time.
Okay,
This
can we
person
move
comes
on?
at that time.
We're gonna move on to
All
the
right.
next topic.
Okay, so we asked an event planner, right? How much time should you realistically give before starting an event? And how late do you actually expect your guests to arrive, or maybe even the first guest? So what we got was that it really varies depending on the event. So for professional event, guests typically come early. Think about like a professional networking or social or something like that. They typically come early. For like just general social events, like you shouldn't plan for your guests to arrive all at the same time. They're going to
True.
come in, they're going to trip in at different times, and
Yeah.
you just need to be ready so that once the first few people come, you start engaging them. And then for parties, like, so think birthday party, bridal shower, wedding party, people tend to come a little later. I mean, well, I guess it depends on type of party, because for
And I think it
surprise
also.
events, people come early. But,
Mm,
oh,
mm. Mm. No comments. Actually, I'm gonna comment because I
Well-
I am a witness to my bridal shower being ruined by someone who came late.
oh, well.
Like, I mean, it's like the surprise. It was supposed to be a surprise, and like I was strolling in, like Shay brought me there, and I'm like, okay. I mean, it was normal. Like I lived in my sister's house. He was bringing me back to my sister's house, and we're walking in, and I see this lady, and I'm like, wait, hold up, is that lady? And I'm like, I haven't seen her in such a long time. What is she doing here? Like I wasn't even thinking bridal shower. I'm like, my mind was just in a different space, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what is she doing here? Does she know I live here?
Oh, worse
And
still, the person
worst
was
case,
like, "Oh,
then-
going, don't worry, don't see me going."
Yeah, and she's like, oh, don't let everyone know I ruined the surprise. And I'm like, oh wait, there is a surprise.
Okay, but anyway, I think yours was the exception, or I hope yours was the exception. But what
No.
the event planner said was that for like parties, people typically come at different times. People tend to come late, but for surprise, they actually try to come early. So you should try to start early. But anyways,
So one comment from a listener, she said, I can tolerate an event starting 30 minutes late or so, but when it starts getting to 1 hour, 2 hours, then I start getting ticked. And I'm with her on that one.
honestly, most people don't mind waiting for 30 minutes, right? And actually, so I'll go conference on you guys, right? So you guys know, like, I love all things tech, right? So I went to this tech conference, and it turns out that a researcher studied people's brain patterns as they are waiting on a slow website to load. And they found out that the anxiety that people face while waiting on a slow website to load is the same as the anxiety they face when they're watching a horror movie.
And is it the same as the anxiety I'm facing listening to this your conference
No,
talk right now?
no. This is no. Let's
Okay,
really
go
think
on,
about
go
this.
on.
Like,
I'm listening.
think
Go
about
on.
it though.
Go
Like,
on.
if you're making people wait, they feel like they're in a horror movie. Now, imagine people are waiting for you at your event, and you have some MC that is just cracking some dry jokes
Oh,
when
God.
everybody's hungry and they're saying that, and they
Oh
just
my
want the event to
gosh.
get started, right?
Yes.
And you're just sitting down. I mean, that's a real horror movie,
Yeah,
okay?
I really don't know which one is worse though. Like, is it just sitting in silence, just waiting for the event to start, or sitting with an MC that's like torture? Like, literally, they're torturing you with your dry jokes, and
Hey,
they're just kind
MCs,
of filling time for the
MCs, by the
event
way,
to start.
we got a lot of love for you. Like, we know it's not your fault.
I
You're really
mean,
keeping us
yeah,
engaged.
y'all
It's
are the real MVPs.
we just want the thing to
but
start. That's all, honestly.
just start. Yeah, like your jokes after some time. It's really. I mean, it's not that. It's no.
Yeah, but
no.
I mean, but when you think about it, though, there's still a money implication to that, right? Because they're paying the MC, they're paying the
Yes.
vendors
Yeah.
that who are already there, they're paying
Yeah.
all the different people, and that can very easily last between 1 to 2 hours. That's a lot of money lost that the host is
Yeah,
paying
yeah.
for an event that hasn't started, right?
Yeah, I actually remember going to like a cute little birthday party. It was such a cute party for like a 1-year-old, and they had set up all these vendors to come and like engage. It was very nice because it included both the parents and the kids. So they had like, people come and play musical instruments that would engage both the parents and the kids.
Oh,
Only
that's a
problem
fancy
is
party.
it was really nice. I really enjoyed myself. The only problem is it started really late. It started 2 hours late, right? But all these vendors, as you'd imagine, they were American, they were American vendors, and they were there right on time. Like they experienced the whole setup.
Nobody
thing.
gave them the download.
Nobody gave them the heads
There's
up.
African time.
But I
man.
don't blame them. Anyway, they collected their money complete because I was chatting with one of like, I think she was like a violinist or whatever instrument she was playing. And, I was like, what time do you think they'll start? And she was like, I really don't know. They hired me for 2 hours and it's already 2 hours. And I charge an hour and a half over, and I was like, "Yay!"
Oh
So,
wow! Oh wait, so
yeah.
she doubles the money for every
she
extra
charges
hour.
an hour and a half. So
For every extra hour.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Can I please learn how to play the violin?
I'm telling you, there's
I
money
don't
in
know.
that stuff, man.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, so that's an extra cost. I mean, this time it's to the host, but it's also costing our community as a whole.
Yeah,
all of these
because
things
people are
add
just
up.
sitting down. Once again, as I said, a lot of people take off work, or even if they're not taking off work, if they're a person like me, right? I'm always working on one project or the other, and I'd rather spend that time working on that project or helping somebody grow their business rather than just sitting down waiting for an event to start. I mean, Bisola knows me. That's why I always take my computer to events.
Jay's computer goes with him everywhere.
Because I mean, I can't just sit down doing nothing. If people are wasting my time, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll be right back. I go to my car, just start doing some work.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways,
So let's give folks some tips to help, how do you help your guests not feel like they're living in a horror movie? Like how, according to Shay, how do you help them, not like the whole time wasting thing, like, how do you help them not to feel that way?
yeah, I guess the first thing I'll say is something that I personally need to learn to do. Think thoroughly about everything you need to do as you're planning the event, and just don't cut things close.
Yeah. Another thing I would say is like, guys, just feed your guests early. Honestly, like give us small chops. It may not be time for food, but like if you're gonna start late, puff puff goes a long way to make people happy. To put a
Yes.
smile, to put a smile on our face. Give us puff puff. Give us meat pie, chin chin, juice, whatever.
Don't
like
let
give
us just be sitting down waiting for you to start. Just feed us.
yeah,
Like,
feed us.
like,
Yeah, and
the
small
wait won't
chops
seem
means
so long then.
small chops means like snacks.
Finger food.
Finger food, yeah, finger food, yeah. So give us something to eat.
Yeah, we'll really appreciate that. Another one is like sometimes you can just start early, even if not all your guests are there. Like, as long as there are 10% of your guests, you can go ahead and get started. Trust me, if I'm hosting an event and my uncle Bill Gates arrives at that event, man, as long as he's there, I will start that event. Or even if I don't start,
Yeah.
I'll just engage him to make him feel like, thank you for coming. We're going to start this thing. By the
Yeah.
way, I have this business idea.
Oh,
Let's start talking
gosh,
about it.
No.
So you get my point is
No.
just value the people that have arrived and just engage them,
Right.
get started.
I hear you. Like, give them prime experience and make them feel, just the fact that they're there early. I think they should get rewarded with like prime experience, actually.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say is like introduce them to other people, right? So if before you start, just say, hey, this is my coworker, and just help them have nice, good conversations. So they're not just there sitting, staring at the ceiling, looking back at their phone, and then staring back at the ceiling again. You just never know what will come out of those kind of introductions, actually.
Yeah, because even though they're just sitting, right, as long as they make a good connection at your event, they're going to remember that, I met this person at this guy's event. This guy connected us together. When next we have something, let's make sure we invite this guy, or let's bring this guy into our business idea, or whatever the case might be. They'll remember you and value you for that.
Yeah, I agree. So that's for the people planning events, right? What about us, like the attendees, right? So if you guys feel like you're living in a horror movie, i.e., according to Shay, like if the event is taking too long, it feels like you're living in a horror movie. What are coping strategies that we can give to people?
Number one, send a text message beforehand.
It's
But
that
then the way
simple.
you send that text message, you got to be strategic. You don't just say, hey, what time does the event start? You're like, hey, I always come early to your events. You wrote 5 o'clock. Is it really 5? Or is it 7? Or is it 8 or something?
I don't know.
Just try to clarify.
I would say something a little different. So so now I'm putting all my all my business out there. But I would typically say something like, I would say like, I have another event right after yours or right before yours. Can you tell me exactly when yours will start? So I will plan to be there right on time.
Yeah, I guess that's also shorter for text messages, because my story, man.
Long story.
I don't know. You can send that.
So the next thing is to take note of the people who always start their parties late. I call them chronic late starters. Shay knows that already. Let me tell you, if someone, your friend, she has a birthday party, it starts late. Bridal shower, it starts late. Wedding, it starts late. When it comes time for the baby shower, what time do you think it's going to start? Hello?
Like right on time. She may have changed because there's a
the Holy
baby
Spirit
there.
came upon her. No, it's going to start late. So don't even try to act like you didn't know. She already gave you the heads up. She already gave you data. She gave you enough data points. So it's going to start late. Just arrive late. Tell them I told you to do so.
Yeah, but then now you get into that cycle of late comer, late starter.
I mean,
and things
to
like
be
that.
honest
But
with
no,
you,
hey,
that's
I
how
hear
we
you,
deal
though.
with it. If she wants to build a reputation, she can build a reputation, and she can. So let's say the baby shower, she starts early, and then you get there and you're like, oh, wait, I missed the bulk of it. And you're starting to learn your lesson, right? So naming ceremony, you're like, the baby shower, she actually started early. Maybe she'll start early this time. And you show up a little bit earlier. And, you're like, okay, yeah, she did start early. And I mean, it's mental work and it's draining and it's stressful, but
Yeah, that's
to
that's too
me,
much thinking. Just
it's
go
worth
late.
it.
That's what you're saying.
Just go
right?
late. No.
Okay, anyway, whatever.
No, what I'm saying is like observe the patterns. Like if someone has shown you the pattern, just like, ride with their flow. Like don't mess up their flow chart. Like just keep going with the data points. Don't mess it up.
I guess. Okay, so this next one, right? It's Shay's personal strategy. Find ways to be productive while you're waiting for an event to start, right? So for me, if you're like me, take your computer everywhere so you can go to your car and do some work.
I think that's kind of being antisocial.
Okay, fine, sure, yeah. I guess you have a point there.
If
But
you're like me, now I'm going to give my counter advice to Shays.
Okay,
If you're
don't listen
like
to my
me,
advice,
one of the
apparently.
recent events I went to, man, I looked around, I was like, Jesus, man, these people are killing me. Just start. Come on, people, just start. But they refused to start. And I was like, God, what can I do? I wrote on my phone a little bit and I was like, I don't feel like writing. So I just got up and I started to talk to people. So I met this really nice lady. Like we had a very good conversation, talked about like her upbringing, talked about, it turns out, we both grew up in Benin. We had, a very good gist. And I talked to some other people. I connected. Like it was really just good conversation. And I felt good at the end of the day. And by the time I was talking to person number 4, the MC was like, oh, okay, we are going to begin now. I was like, all right, cool. We're going to start. Wasn't too bad.
That's not a bad idea,
Yeah.
because maybe by talking to people, you can get that next business contact,
See Shay going conference again. He's all serious, all
Okay,
business.
my bad. Maybe by talking to that next... Whatever, you get that
Maybe
next
by
business
talking to
contact.
that next person, they can find their spouse. How about that?
Oh, yeah, that happens too, right? Okay, moving on.
So next point.
All right, so the other thing is think thoroughly about everything you need to do before the event starts, right? And maybe if you need to do your shopping, just do your shopping before you go to the event. Or just know that everything you have to accomplish that day,
Yeah,
you've got
it's
it done
yeah.
before you go to the event, right? Of
Yeah.
course, that's if the event starts late.
Yeah.
But Just one idea.
But at some point, to be honest with you, you just want the party to get started. And that's when, final point, I just get up and leave. Like if it's getting unrealistic, if the wait is unrealistic, bruh, I'm out of there. Like I'm done.
Yeah.
Next time they will do better. Leave it, drop a gift, take a picture. Take a picture, drop a gift, give a hug, smile, and just be out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, but babe, right, that this event that we're saying we're planning, like we after this episode we cannot start
gosh.
late because
Watch
if we
us
do,
be like 2 hours
oh
late.
no,
Y'all are gonna burn us alive.
we'll be totally roasted. So
Yeah, but no, we're really looking forward to you, our listeners, joining us for our launch event. I think it's going to be so much fun. We have a lot planned for you guys to really enjoy an evening out, with us, hanging out with us and other fun young people like us. Yeah. So come out. We have 30 spots reserved. It's first come, first serve, and it's a free event. Good food, good company, good conversations, and yeah, come out.
and there's gonna be lots of good vibing. You got to go back to episode 1 for that
Good
one.
vibing. We're just gonna leave it there.
All right, guys.
All right. Thanks for hanging with us on episode 3 of Life and Some Jara.
And guys, if you're not yet on the WhatsApp group, you're missing out on some good conversation. Like this past week, there was this debate on
We were talking about how, as a lady, like bringing a cousin along to an event or your brother along to a wedding, and how that can send across the wrong message. And some people were like, nah, I mean, you just get there and you go your separate ways. But some other people were like, who cares anyway? I don't know. I don't remember
Anyway, you guys need to go in there and see some of the hot conversation going on. That's all.
Okay, guys, this has been fun, and it's a wrap for episode 3 of Life and Some Jara.
What?
Hey.
Yeah. But no, guys, this has been fun, so thanks.